Have a pleasant evening to each and everyone. I'm very glad because you're able to watch my discussion for tonight. So for today's video, I'll be going to discuss the different definition of globalization and as well as the metaphors of globalization. So let's tackle first defining globalization. But before that, let me introduce myself first. I am Laila Sultana Bello and I am from Feed4D and I am the first reporter for tonight. So now, let's move on to the first definition of globalization. So according to Al Rodan 2006, globalization is not a single concept that can be defined and encompassed within a set time of frame, nor is it a process that can be defined clearly with a beginning and an end. Meaning to say, globalization has no starting point and end. As a century goes by, nagkakaroon lang ng global integration. Kumbaga, it is continuous. It has progression. For the second statement, according to Larson 2001, globalization is the process of world shrinkage, distances getting shorter, and things moving closer. So according to definition of Larson, he is just pointing that distance is not hindrance anymore, na ang globalization ay siyang way for us to be close in other country. Mas mapapalapit tayo sa kanila. However, others believe that globalization brought regression, colonialism, and destabilization. These beliefs are actually supported by Martin Kor, the president of the Third World Network in Malaysia, who stated that globalization is a form of colonization. Hence, globalization can be defined as narrow and exclusive or broad and inclusive. Now, let's discuss defining globalization as broad and inclusive. For the first statement, according to May 1992, globalization means the onset of the borderless world. This definition proposes that barriers are no longer considered as a hindrance because there are so many ways by which we can access information and goods from other countries as if we are living in one place without any borders. What is Omei pointing? Globalization is a borderless world, meaning to say, wala nang harang, wala nang bakod na maging barrier for us to communicate and to import or export product in other countries. And for the next statement, according to Ray and Phil, 1998, globalization is a situation wherein societies, culture, politics, and economics have in some sense come closer together. As what I've explained in the definition of globalization, globalization makes everyone close together in all aspects, like in societies, politics, cultures, and so on. Like for an example, di ba we adopt other countries' practices dahil tinatangkilik natin product nila. So it's a part of globalization. For the third statement, according to John Art 1999, globalization refers to processes whereby social relations acquire relatively distanceless and borderless qualities so that human lives are increasingly played out in the world as a single place. John Art's definition is similar to Omei's perception, wherein globalization is distanceless and borderless. And for the last statement in defining globalization as broad and inclusive, globalization can be viewed as the compression of time and space according to Harvey 1998. So in this definition, globalization can be viewed as the compression of time and space. So meaning to say, pinaliliit or kinocompress na yung time and space. Says for an instance, the way we order products from other platforms or social media platforms like Lazada and Shopee, even the products will came from other country, napakabilis ng process. Like 3 to 7 days, mahahawakan mo agad yung parcel or item na in-order mo. Kasi it's part of globalization and that's why it compressed time and space. Now, let's tackle defining globalization as narrow and exclusive. So for the first statement, according to Robert Cox 1999, globalization is characterized by the internationalizing of production, the new international division of labor, migration from south and north, and a competitive environment, which increases processes such as manufacturing of goods and commodities. This means yung pagtangkilik natin sa isang product from other country that causes for them to manufacture more goods and commodities. And syempre, ganun din yung country natin which is Philippines. The more na may tumatangkilik sa atin, the more naman na nagkakaroon tayo or nakakapag-isip tayo ng other ideas na pwede natin i-manufacture na magiging trend locally and international. And that is a globalization according to Robert.
And for the statement stated by Bayroch and Kozul, 1996, globalization is a process in which the production and financial structures of countries are becoming interlinked by an increasing number of cross-border transactions to create an international division of labor, in which national wealth creation comes increasingly to depend on economic agents in other countries.
The point here is the financial structure of different countries joined together or being connected to each other, which lead to transactions such as exporting and importing products. And syempre, behind the transaction, there's a money involvement. Kaya nag-i-increase yung financial status ng isang bansa. So as long as may cross-border transaction, and that is part of our globalization.
And for the statement of Langhone 2001, globalization is the latest stage in a long accumulation of technological advances, which has given human beings the ability to conduct their affairs across the world without reference to nationality, government authority, time of day, or physical environment.
Which is true. Di ba habang tumatagal, there is an advancement when it comes to technology na kung saan technology became our platform or way for us to have transactions or easily to buy and sell products around the world. So, and it is not issue kung Filipino ka or kahit anong nationality mo. So, you don't need either government authority to sell and buy products, di ba? So like for an example, yung FB live selling, di ba pag may nagmamine, napapadala agad through different padalahan station. So napaka-easy ng transaction kasi nagkakaroon ng technology integration and that's still part of globalization.
And for the last part of my report, metaphors of globalization, which are solid, liquidity, and flaws. First is solid. It refers to the barriers that may prevent free movement and it can be natural or man-made.
So dito naman, this is the possible barrier, kumbaga sa gabal, sa free movement or malayang pakikipag-transact ng tao in other countries. It can be a person, it can be a thing or a place as long as it's hardened. So meaning to say, kaya nga solid kasi nakahawakan mo yung mga bagay na to or kaya napupuntahan mo, nakakausap mo, na maaaring maging cause ng problem for us to have limited action when it comes to transaction in other countries.
And for the second metaphors of globalization, we have liquidity. It refers to increasing ease of movement of people, things, information, and places in the global age.
So sa liquidity, it is contrast to solid which is dito hindi hindrance, hindi barrier, kundi ito yung ease, yung madaling flow ng isang bagay, yung free movement natin to have access in other countries.
So for the last metaphors of globalization, we have flows. It refers to the movement of people, things, ideas, and culture across the globe due to the advances in technology, economic and political integration, and establishment of global policies that lessens and eliminates the existing borders.
And lastly, dito na pumapasok yung madaling movement ng isang tao to access informations in other countries or different countries because of technology integration and even economic and political as well, na kung saan binabawasan or inaalis nito yung harang, yung burden, or yung border in order for us to communicate and to transact worldwide. Thank you so much for your time and effort watching my video presentation. I hope you've learned a lot from my discussion about globalization. Keep safe everyone and to God be the highest glory.